Hello and welcome to another episode of Yoga Off the Mat. If you're new here, this series is all about the different elements that make up a yoga practice. My name's Emily, I'm a yoga teacher, and as you will have seen, this video is about the chakras. So the fact that you're watching this means you probably fall into one of two camps. Either you are curious about the chakras, you want to learn a little bit about them, or maybe you fall into the camp of being a little bit skeptical and a little bit unsure about ideas like the chakras, about subtle body, subtle energy, prana, things like that, that are a big part of the yoga practice. And so I wanted to make this video with both camps in mind, because I do understand that there is a certain amount of uncertainty around these elements of yoga in the Western world. If you're like me and you've grown up in England, for example, these concepts of the chakras and subtle energy are not things that we grew up with. We grew up learning about the physical body, about, problems with the physical body. If you break a bone, you go to a doctor and you understand how that all works. But we were never taught about the sort of slightly more subtle, energetic, spiritual aspect of our being. And so it can be a little difficult to wrap your head around that when you start practicing in yoga and learning more about it. I'll start by explaining the traditional view of the chakras and how the subtle body and prana feeds into that. But then I will also, for those of you in that slightly more uncertain camp, I'm going to give you a way that you can relate to the concepts around the chakras and ways that you can use those things to understand yourself a little bit better, even if you are still a little unsure about the idea of energy centers and things like that. Okay, let's begin by looking at the traditional understanding in yoga of what the chakras are, what the subtle body is. So within yogic philosophy, we have the physical body, so skin, bones, muscle, nerves, things like that, tissues that we can see, that we can perceive. And we have the subtle body or the energetic body. So this is the stuff that we can't see or perceive or measure really, but we can feel. So this is like your sense of intuition, your aura. When you, for example, pick up on a vibe in a room, or you get a certain feeling from someone, that intuitive feeling doesn't really come from anything within our physical body, that's coming from the subtle energetic body. Then within the subtle body, we have prana. Prana is this subtle energy. This is what feeds the subtle body in the same way that oxygen feeds the physical body. And we looked a little bit at prana in episode 4 when we talked about pranayama, because pranayama, or breath work, breath control, breath exercises, is all about controlling the flow of prana. So prana moves through what are called nadis. These are sort of channels that the energy flows through within that subtle body. Those nadis, those pathways, intersect at different points throughout the subtle body, and it's thought that there are 7 major points where they intersect, major kind of junctions of all of those pathways, and those intersections or junctions are called the chakras. So there are thought to be 7 main junctions. Of course, they're not within the physical body, but they're sort of within that subtle body. They correspond with the areas along the spine. So from the base of the spine, moving up and through to the crown of the head. And each of those centers of energy, each of those chakras correspond with a different aspect of your being, of who you are. So for example, there's the throat chakra, which is about your ability to communicate freely. There's your solar plexus chakra, which is about your sense of who you are, your identity, and your ability to be yourself fully. So when we talk about things like chakras not being aligned, or there being blockages in the chakras, we're meaning that there are difficulties or issues within certain aspects of our being. And through the practice of yoga, there are different ways that you can work with those chakras, those energy centers, different ways of approaching them, of understanding them, and of trying to sort of shift any energetic blockages there. Okay, with that all in mind, going back to the camp that you may be in of being a little unsure, if you're struggling to wrap your head around all of those kind of ideas and sort of maybe visualize how that all works, then for now, what I would suggest is just let all of that go. And as I talk through these 7 different chakras, just think of them as 7 different aspects of who you are. Those are all things that you can relate to. And you don't necessarily for now have to think of them as these energy centers. You can just think of them as 7 concepts, 7 ideas about who you are. And as we go through them, you might just sort of have a little think about, okay, in that aspect of me, are there any issues there at the moment? Is there anything that I need to address? Or is that quite sort of balanced and quite healthy at the moment? So let's start with the first one, Muladhara. Of course, that's the Sanskrit word. We also have the more modern terminology for it, which is the root chakra. So this first one is thought to be right at the base of your spine. And this represents your base needs, your survival instincts, your need for food, money, shelter. If you feel quite balanced in all of those aspects, if you know where your next meal is coming from, you are financially fairly stable, you have a comfortable home, then chances are that chakra or that aspect of your being is pretty balanced, pretty healthy. But things that can then tip it off balance would be any financial worries, having to move house, anything like that can make you start to feel energetically unstable. Then we move up to the second chakra, Svadhisthana. I apologise if my Sanskrit pronunciation is really, really bad. Svadhisthana, or the sacral chakra, this is thought to be located around the pelvis, sort of lower down than the belly button. And this is to do with your senses of creativity, of pleasure, of sexuality, but also sort of being able to connect emotionally to other people and to be able to empathize with other people. Then we have the third chakra, Manipura, which is the solar plexus chakra, and that's thought to be right in your belly, right in your middle. And this is your sense of confidence in who you are, in being truly, completely yourself. So problems here can come when we have times of self-doubt, maybe experiencing some feelings of shame around who we are for whatever reason. Those are some ways that chakra or that aspect of our being can get a little bit off balance. Next we have Anahata, the heart chakra. This is about our ability to both give and receive love fully, to be able to be compassionate, to be able to connect truly and honestly and openly with people. Then we move up to Vishuddha, which is the throat chakra, and that's all about our ability to express ourselves fully, to communicate truthfully and honestly. So not necessarily about being really articulate in the way that you speak, but being truthful in how you speak to people, not holding things back, not keeping secrets, being communicative and honest. So then we move up to Anya, or the third eye chakra, which is thought to be located around about here. And that is your sense of intuition, your inner wisdom. So this is something that maybe doesn't develop until later on in life, when you know yourself a little bit better and you are able to tap into that inner wisdom and know that you can trust and follow your instincts fully. And then finally we have the crown chakra, Sahasrara, which is thought to be located sort of just hovering just above the crown of your head. And this is your connection to the kind of divine, the spiritual. Not many people are thought to ever get to a point in their life where this crown chakra is fully sort of developed and opened and energy is able to flow through there. But it is thought that if you do achieve that in your life, then once you get to that point, you kind of have a spiritual awakening. You become fully at peace with yourself, with the world around you. You reach spiritual enlightenment. So that is essentially the end goal with the chakras, in theory, is that we go through our lives trying to sort of find balance, find peace through all of those different aspects of our being. Obviously, the base ones tend to be the things that we develop first, so our ability to survive, the root chakra, our foundations of having a home, having food, having money. Gradually then we move up through our ability to connect with other people, a sense of who we are, our ability to love and receive love, our ability to communicate. And as we move up these sort of later chakras, these are the things that develop later on in life and can be much more difficult to find real balance with. So being able to communicate honestly, being able to truly trust your inner wisdom, your intuition, and then maybe at some stage, if you do finally get to a point where all of those aspects of yourself are balanced and aligned, maybe you will then be fully at peace and enlightened. So that is the chakras in a very, very quick explanation. There's so much more to learn about them out there, so definitely go and do a bit more reading or watch some more videos if you are really interested. But as I said before, if you are still a little uncertain or unsure about how to approach things like the subtle body, prana, the chakras, if you're not quite sure how they fit within your yoga practice at the moment, that's okay. For now, I would suggest just maybe going through each of those 7 chakras in your mind. Maybe you can sit down, close your eyes, and go through them one by one and just have a look at that aspect of your being. So maybe your root chakra, your base needs. Do you feel unbalanced at the moment or unstable in terms of money, food, shelter? Or are those things all kind of sorted for you at the moment? Is that area of your being quite balanced and healthy? Then you move on to the next one and the next one and the next one. And it's just a really effective way of checking in with yourself, of self-inquiry, which is what the entire practice of yoga is really all about. So my personal advice is don't get too hung up on the concept of trying to get your head around these energy centers and the nadis and prana if it's all new to you and if it makes your head spin a little bit. Don't worry about it too much. Just look at the meaning of the different chakras and see how you can maybe relate to those things, and maybe it will help you to identify some areas of your life that you want to spend a bit more time thinking about or working on. Okay, I'll leave it there for today, but if you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments below and I'll get back to you. If you found this helpful, please give it a little like, thumbs up, and you can subscribe to this channel for more videos like this and for yoga flows on Sundays. Thank you for watching. I will see you very soon. Take care.